The Battle of Van Tuong, August 18 to 19, 1965, Quang Ngai Province. The battle fought along what American sources sometimes referred to as Highway 14 in late 1965 was, in fact, the Battle of Van Tuong, August 18 to 19, 1965, in Quang Ngai Province. This engagement marked the first large-scale direct ground combat operation conducted by U.S. forces in South Vietnam. It occurred at a moment when the United States had already recognized the failure of the special war strategy and was transitioning into what it called limited war, local war, a conflict fought primarily by U.S. combat troops rather than South Vietnamese forces. From the American perspective, the battle was officially portrayed as a success. U.S. commanders claimed it demonstrated the invincibility of American military power, superior firepower, and the effectiveness of conventional operations against Viet Cong main force units. However, in reality, the battle planted the first serious doubts, both within the United States and internationally, about America's ability to win the war. It revealed early on that the conflict would be far more difficult, far bloodier, and far less controllable than anticipated, especially against an enemy skilled in guerrilla warfare and deeply rooted in local terrain and population. American strategic objectives. The primary objective of the United States at this stage of the war was not only to defeat Viet Cong forces in a single engagement, but to test and validate a new strategic approach. The special war strategy, relying on South Vietnamese forces supported by American advisors, had clearly failed. Van Tuong was intended to serve as a proving ground for direct U.S. intervention under the new limited war doctrine. American commanders sought to engage Viet Cong main force units in open combat, demonstrate overwhelming superiority in firepower and mobility, destroy enemy forces decisively in a set-piece battle, prove that U.S. troops could dominate the battlefield from the outset. Operation Starlight, under which the Battle of Van Tuong was conducted, was therefore designed as a search and destroy operation, combining amphibious landings, helicopter insertions, artillery, naval gunfire, and close air support. Forces and firepower, a disparity on paper. From the American side, approximately 5,500 U.S. Marines from the 7th Marine Regiment, 3rd Marine Division participated in the operation. These forces were supported by 105mm and 155mm artillery batteries, naval gunfire from U.S. Navy destroyers offshore, tactical air support from Marine and Navy aircraft, helicopter-borne infantry units for rapid maneuver. In contrast, U.S. intelligence estimated that 1,500 to 2,000 Viet Cong fighters, primarily from the 1st Viet Cong Regiment, were operating in the Van Tuong area. These forces were lightly equipped, relying mainly on small arms, light mortars, recoilless rifles, extensive use of trenches, bunkers, and concealed fighting positions. On paper, the imbalance was overwhelming. American forces possessed superior numbers, superior firepower, complete air and naval dominance, and logistical support unmatched by the opposing side. Yet this disparity did not translate into decisive battlefield control. Course of the battle, American deployment and combat experience. The battle began on August 18, 1965, with U.S. Marines conducting amphibious landings along the coast while other units were inserted by helicopter inland. The plan aimed to encircle and destroy Viet Cong units believed to be operating in the area. From the American perspective, the operation quickly revealed unexpected difficulties. Viet Cong forces did not fight in large, exposed formations. Instead, they engaged U.S. units at close range, used well-prepared defensive positions, exploited terrain, villages, and vegetation, avoided sustained engagements where American firepower could be fully applied. U.S. Marines encountered fierce resistance almost immediately. Close quarters combat limited the effectiveness of artillery and air support. Viet Cong units repeatedly disengaged, repositioned, and counterattacked, preventing U.S. forces from achieving a clean encirclement. Despite continuous fire support, American units struggled to fix and destroy the enemy. The battlefield became fragmented, with small unit engagements occurring across villages, rice paddies, and fortified positions. Casualties and claimed results. Following the battle, U.S. commanders declared victory. According to American reports, the Viet Cong suffered heavy losses with several hundred killed. U.S. forces sustained comparatively lower casualties. However, the reality was more complex. Although exact figures remain contested, American casualties were significant for what was intended to be a demonstration of overwhelming force. Moreover, the Viet Cong units were not destroyed. They withdrew in good order, retaining combat capability and local influence. Despite efforts to control information, evidence emerged that U.S. forces had failed to decisively eliminate the opposing force. The battle did not achieve its strategic objective of crushing Viet Cong resistance in the area. Reaction and assessment from the United States and abroad. American and international reactions quickly exposed the deeper implications of Van Tuong. U.S. media, including major outlets such as the New York Times and reports from UPI, began to question the narrative of inevitable victory. Some described the conflict as a war with no clear hope of rapid success. Photographs taken by war correspondents, including the now famous images by Horst Fass showing fallen American soldiers, shocked the U.S. public. These images contradicted official statements and fueled growing opposition to the war. Despite attempts to downplay losses, the reality of American casualties and the inability to overwhelm a smaller, less equipped enemy weakened confidence in U.S. military supremacy. Strategic meaning for the United States. From the American perspective, the Battle of Van Tuong carried profound implications. It demonstrated that the war in Vietnam could not be won quickly. Superior firepower alone could not defeat guerrilla tactics. Direct U.S. involvement would lead to a prolonged, costly, and bloody conflict. The battle exposed weaknesses in the limited war strategy and confirmed that Vietnamese resistance forces were capable of absorbing losses while continuing to fight effectively. Although officially labeled a victory, Van Tuong marked the beginning of serious doubt within American strategic thinking. It foreshadowed a long war of attrition, one in which technological superiority would not guarantee political or military success. In this sense, the battle was not merely the first engagement of U.S. ground troops in Vietnam. It was the first warning that the war would be far more difficult and far less controllable than American leaders had anticipated.